and welcome. I'm glad to be with you today. What an exciting program has been prepared for you. We hope that you might remind a neighbor or friend, and perhaps they would want to join us as well. I think we have some of the best historical places to visit today. You are really going to enjoy this pilgrimage along with us as we just recently visited New England. I want to share with you a very important place up there around Enfield, Connecticut, where Jonathan Edwards, the Puritan preacher, did the famous sermon, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God.
It's a very special privilege to be here today at this rock that denotes the meeting house as the inscription. As we transfer over to the stone itself, the inscription says this boulder marks the place where stood the second meeting house of the First Church of Christ in Enfield, built in A.D. 1704 and used for worship until 1775. In this meeting house on July the 8th, 1741, during the revival known as the Great Awakening, Jonathan Edwards preached his celebrated sermon, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. It has been reported that due to perhaps poor eyesight, that he read this message word for word. I know it was published, and yet the words had such a clarion call and had such impact that it's also reported that the congregants, or when people would hear this message, that the power of God would be so great upon them that they would instantly and immediately begin to beg for mercy. A deep conviction that perhaps we don't see much of today, but according to the historical records, Jonathan Edwards, 1741, and when I think about this, we will soon be thinking of 300 years since that powerful sermon was delivered and was repeatedly given at many times, but it has been in textbooks. It's a part of our legacy. It's a part of our history. This preacher, Jonathan Edwards, left such an imprint and an impact, and it's a special privilege for me to present it today as part of our Faith, Family, and Freedom broadcast. God bless.
A few years ago, the Inspirations Quartet out of Bryson City, North Carolina, came to Muncie, Indiana, where we live. And of course, the Inspirations had sung for me over the years in so many places. We had been together in well over 100 programs, concerts, and we were observing the 1,000th program for our gospel singing program at that time, and the Inspirations came and sang for us. It was a wonderful time, and this particular song, I think, it just resonates. The song says, I have not forgotten. The Inspirations will sing as they have never sung before. Would you make welcome some of my dearest friends and the top quartet that has ever sung gospel music, the Inspirations Quartet from Bryson City, North Carolina. Would you give them a nice welcome here tonight in Muncie, Indiana?
God's only begotten, and the price that he paid for my sin. I must not forget, with joy not regret, he died on the cross for all men. Lord, I have not forgotten Jesus. without hope.
lost without hope.
When the Lord saved my
soul, I remember that hour. By his saving power, I have not forgotten. I have not forgotten.
He was bruised and afflicted, as the prophets predicted, despised and rejected of men. But in his agony there was ransom for me. His blood bought me joy without end. Lord, I have not forgotten. Jesus,
only begotten.
I was lost without hope.
Lost without hope.
When the Lord saved my
soul, I remember that hour. By his saving power, I have not forgotten. I have not forgotten.
Lord, I
have not forgotten.
Jesus,
only begotten.
I was lost without hope.
Lost without hope.
When the Lord saved my
soul, I remember that hour. By his saving power, I have not forgotten. I have not forgotten.
I'm washed in the blood of his crimson flood.
I have not forgotten. I have not forgotten. I have not forgotten. I have not forgotten.
What a wonderful delight to be with Jessica Anderson today in Washington, D.C. And you lead such a wonderful organization, and we call it
Heritage Action.
Heritage Action. That's such a vibrant word. What does that mean, Jessica?
So, Heritage Action is the largest conservative grassroots network in the country.
Wow.
We have over 2 million activists that work day in and day out in states across America to hold members of Congress accountable, to organize their communities, and to advocate for conservative public policy solutions both at the state and the federal level.
Does that include faith, family, and freedom?
It absolutely does include faith, family, and freedom. That's the bedrock of our country.
That's wonderful. Would you mind to elaborate on that when you say it's the bedrock?
Well, what so many of our grassroots activists across the country believe in is that you need to put your faith and you need to put your family first when you're making decisions, that the government should not be in control of the most intimate decisions that you make, where you go to worship, where you send your children to school, what they're learning. Obviously, that's a huge thing that's going on right now as parents are standing up for their children's education. And so what our activists do is they take those principles that make up the foundation of American society, and that's the lens by which they look at legislation. So when these new bills are coming through Congress, is freedom advancing or receding? Is the family advancing or receding? Is our faith advancing or receding?
Do you monitor like the voting records of members of Congress?
We do. Not only do we provide vote recommendations by way of key votes, advising members of Congress of how to vote, yes or no, based on whatever that policy is that's moving through, but then we also track it through our legislative scorecard. So if you go to heritageaction.com, you can find our entire scorecard and then how members rank based on their votes.
heritageaction.com.
Correct.
And so, in other words, somebody in whatever state can find how his or her member of Congress voted.
That's exactly right. Whether you're in Indiana or Wyoming or Florida, you can click, you can see how your member of Congress voted and how your senator
So
voted.
you have to do a lot of preparatory work in knowing the issues, don't you? I mean, but the conservative stand on a given issue or a proposal, a bill or something that's being introduced, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So Heritage Action was founded 11 years ago by the Heritage Foundation to be the political grassroots arm. And so we lean heavily on the policy research of the Heritage Foundation as they're researching bills, analyzing them, providing the data scoring, all of that. We take that into consideration. We couple it with where the grassroots are. Are they hot on this issue? Are they cold on this issue? What's the beat of the country? And then we mirror that to then provide the recommendation to the
heritageaction.com. That's wonderful. May I ask a question? Where is your home?
I am from Florida originally.
Whereabouts?
I grew up in Miami, and then my family moved to Naples when I was 15.
Naples. I've been there.
It's a great place.
Some vacation. Wonderful. Miss Anderson, thank you that you would take time for us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
God bless. Have a beautiful day. Sometimes as citizens, we may get dismayed and think maybe that everybody has maybe thinking differently from us. But it's always encouraging to meet, and especially the representatives of our federal government, and find out their Christian background, that they too share such a profound concern for our nation that they're trying to do what they can do within the confines of what we often hear as the swamp. And so when you find somebody that seemingly has good common sense, it means a lot to me. And I always, when I go to D.C., I try to emphasize the spiritual application, find out from these ladies and gentlemen just what we can do to stand for the faith, the family, and the freedom. And recently, I was able to interview James Comer, the Southwestern District of Kentucky. He is a representative. Matter of fact, he had lost a race for governor there a few years ago by 83 votes. But he's trying, I really believe, and he was gracious to us. I want to share with you that interview. Well, it's wonderful to be in the office of Representative James Comer, representing the 1st District in the great Commonwealth state of Kentucky. Of course, Kentucky has a kindred spirit for me because my folks were born and reared in Wayne County and McCreary County. And Congressman Comer, thank you for taking time today.
My pleasure.
Tell me, where is home to you?
I live in Monroe County, which is Tompkinsville, not far from Wayne County, Macquarie County. In fact, the 1st Congressional District goes as far east as Monroe, where I live, then Cumberland, then Clinton County. And we end at Clinton County, then the next county over is Wayne County, where I'm from.
Clinton County. You know, Kentucky, I think, has 120 counties.
120, and I represent 35 of them.
Why did you ask for such a big district?
But it's probably going to get a little bigger after redistricting next year, but we love our district.
Right. Well, you know, I have found, we don't want to overgeneralize, but every state has its unique characteristics, but I have to say, Kentucky is a beautiful state.
Yes, sir.
And it has wonderful people.
Mhm.
And what we're trying to do, Congressman, is simply advance an agenda that we have labeled faith, family, and freedom. That's important to me.
Absolutely. It's important to the people in my congressional district.
I would say that they probably share what you and I believe.
They share, they're good God-fearing people. They work, they want limited government, but they respect the Constitution and expect for Congress to uphold their liberties, especially their religious liberties.
You know, there's a book Pat Buchanan wrote called The Death of the West. And Congressman, in that book, if I remember the quote, he said, in half a lifetime, many Americans have seen their God dethroned, their country invaded, their values assaulted, and themselves demonized as bigots and extremists for holding on to beliefs that Americans have held for generations. I would say that's true in Kentucky, wouldn't you?
Yes, sir.
I know you've been here for a little while. What's your expectations? What can we do? I'm sure there's some things that we all could do that would give us more hope for the future of our country. I've said it before. I think it was Reagan who said that he didn't want his grandchildren to one day have to say, what was it once like to live in a country where men were free? What can we do?
Well, I think we need to hold our leaders accountable and make sure that they abide by the Constitution. You know, there's not a lot wrong with the Constitution, and America is still the symbol of democracy across the world. But what we have now in Washington is we have a lot of liberals that are trying to rewrite history and whitewash history. And if you disagree with them, they're trying to say, as you quoted Pat Buchanan, they're trying to say you're a racist or a bigot or whatever. But if you go back to the Constitution and our founding fathers, they were Christians, and one nation under God. And,
right.
and I think that we need to try to make sure that we have leaders that not only campaign on that, but once they get elected, govern with that mindset.
You know, some people have been turned off by the system, and perhaps rightfully so. They say many times a candidate seeking office will say what he thinks the people want him to say, but then sometimes Potomac fever sets in. I'm sure you've experienced that, maybe in others.
I could start rattling names off, but I'll spare you the details there. So.
Well, we, as a Christian, I'm interested in our foundation. The Bible is very specific. The Bible said if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? We, the beginnings, the genesis of our documents, whether it was the Declaration of Independence, which was the common law for the day, the Constitution, those were founded upon bedrock principles like man are created equal, that we're not talking about equal outcomes, but we're talking about that people are created in the image of God.
Exactly.
To the many viewers that we have here, whether it's in Louisville or wherever, what would you say what's your hope for America?
Well, I think a problem that doesn't get the attention that it deserves is the federal debt. And if you continue to print money in Washington, not only are you going to have inflation, you're going to have a country that's going to be hopeless for the next generation. So we've got this mindset going around in Washington that you don't have to pay your bills, the debt's not important. And it sets a bad example for everyone. I think the leaders in Washington are setting bad examples for the next generation, not just from a fiscal standpoint, but from a moral and an ideological standpoint. So I feel like it can be turned around. I feel like there's a movement brewing in America of people, of conservatives that are dissatisfied and wanting to become more active in the process.
Somebody said, I don't know who it was, Reagan or somebody said it. They said if you put the federal government in charge of the Sahara Desert, there'd soon be a shortage of sand.
I agree with that. Yeah.
But from a spiritual standpoint, do you have any thoughts or any advice for us?
Well, obviously we need to pray for our country, and I think that we need to become active in politics. I know a lot of churches where I grew up, Baptist, I'm Southern Baptist, it was frowned upon for the pastor to talk about politics, but when you don't incorporate politics and political events in your messages and your sermons, then you end up with what we have in Washington, and that's a godless, I wouldn't want to say majority, but several members that don't even believe in God. And I'll give you an example. 25% of the Democrat class that was sworn in this past Congress did not put their hand on a Bible. 25% of the Democrat freshmen.
You're kidding me.
No.
25.
Some of them had, some of them weren't Christians, so they didn't
Quran or
the
something.
Quran or something like. Some of them used a U.S. the Constitution instead of the Bible.
Wow.
But they, for whatever reason, didn't put their hand on the Bible, and I think that shows that there's a need for an awakening by
Spiritual awakening. You agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Congressman, I don't want to take your time. You're a busy person, but thank you for, I would call it a new friendship. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
all right?
Absolutely.
And I get into Kentucky so much, all over that state. Beautiful people. I love Kentucky, and I love its people, and I want to thank you for what you're doing.
Well, thank you for what you're doing. Appreciate it.
God bless. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Hello, friends. This is Andrew Phipps, and I believe that we need all of the materials that we can gather to help us as we combat the attack upon our faith, our family, and our freedoms. We need to be educated, and I have a handbook that has been given to state legislatures. It's been given to members of Congress. It's a colorfully created handbook that has graphs, charts, quotes, and different things in it. You'll be impressed with it. And also we have DVDs. We have CDs that are God and Country, Return to Greatness, and Faith, Family, and Freedom, some other wonderful materials. See the contact information on the screen. Be sure that you order some because these will be of a tremendous help. They are supplemental materials to help you in your Christian walk. And may God bless. I'm so happy that we were able to share with you today some of the travels and the itinerary of some of the places that it's been so wonderful to meet. A good friend of mine, Hap Strunk, down in Kentucky, down around Whitley City, Kentucky, he said that if ignorance is bliss, he said, I know some happy campers. Well, we're trying to do our best to help each one of us. We all can be taught and we can learn, and we must be willing to stand up in these days of deception, to stand for truth, to speak truth to error. It's so incumbent upon each one of us that we not fail in our duty, that we not be derelict. I think we owe it to our families and to our country that we be patriots. And so our Faith, Family, and Freedom program wants to do so many things and share so many things that hopefully will be a source of encouragement. Maybe they will be helpful and bring some information and share with you some places that we all need to know about it. I have enjoyed it immensely. I hope you have. Be sure that you remind your friends to join us, but until the next time, this is Andrew Phipps.
Phipps, Faith, Family, and Freedom, presented by Clemens Home Solutions and Heritage Funeral Care.